It's time to repair worn holes on an H-link from a Bulldozer's ripper attachment. There's a slight gap on this side of the hole. The H-link works with the pulling force, so the holes always wear on the front and back side. This is a common problem with these H-links, so I use nylon liners from previous repairs to align the boring bar. Once the boring bar was through both liners, I could mount the bearings and bracket. This isn't a usual setup for line boring. I need to secure the H-link to the table so it does not move around when boring. Once the bearings, bracket and H-link was secure, I pulled out the boring bar and removed the liners. I slid the boring bar back through all the bearings and it was now positioned center of the worn holes. I started boring the holes with a magnetic drill. If you watched my previous videos, you would know that I ran into some complications with it and ended up having to quickly build a line boring machine to complete the bulldozer job. If you want more details about that, check out my previous video. It's not a state-of-the-art line boring machine, but it did the job. And yes, it's manually fed by a ratchet. Alright, back to the repair. I'm boring the holes out till they are big enough for a sleeve with a decent sized wall thickness. I know many people disagree with sleeving worn holes, but as mentioned before, I've done it many times this way and haven't had any issues. As long as your sleeves have a decent wall thickness, it will hold. I'm happy with the size I bored the holes on this side of the H-link. I'm now going to cut it loose and flip it around. The bearings for the boring bar are aligned, so I don't need to do anything there. I just knocked the liners into the worn holes on this side of the H-link and slid the boring bar through the bearings and the liners. The boring bar was positioned center of the worn holes on this side so I could secure it to the table. Just like I did on the previous side, I pulled the boring bar out and removed the liners. I then slid the boring bar back through the bearings and was ready to bore. And that was all the boring on the H-link complete. I'm now going to cut everything loose and get the H-link ready for sleeving. There is still old welding on the H-link, so I'm just going to grind that down. Once the grinding was welded down, I numbered each hole 1 to 4 and took precise measurements of each of their diameters. Alright, I got all the sizes I need. In my next video I'm going to machine the sleeves and fit them to the H-link. Stay tuned. Thanks for watching.